Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we're back on the record on CR 22211623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. We just concluded the lunch recess. The jurors are all properly seated and accounted for. We just completed a witness before the lunch break, so I believe the state will be calling another witness at this time. Who's going to be calling that witness?
I will, Your Honor. The state will call Detective Bruce Mattingly.
You can call your witness. Thank you, Ms. Blake.
Swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Great, thanks.
All right, now that the witness has been sworn, let me just inquire before we start with direct. Detective Mattingly, since this trial has been broadcast, have you reviewed either in person or on the broadcast any of the trial testimony that's taken place since the case started?
No,
Okay, have you discussed with anyone else the substance of their testimony?
no.
Okay, thanks for that. Ms. Blake, if you'd like to inquire, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Mattingly, would you please spell your name for the record?
Last is Mattingly, Mattingly.
Where are you currently employed?
Fremont County, Idaho Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed with them?
I'm going on my 23rd year.
What is your current title and or position?
Current title is Detective Sergeant for over detectives.
How long have you held that position?
I've been a detective for the last 7 years.
Have you held other positions then within the Fremont County Sheriff's Office?
I have. I've worked in the jail, worked on patrol, and as a resource officer.
Do you have any specialized training in order to be a law enforcement officer?
I do. I graduated from the Post Academy and I earned my basic, intermediate, advanced, and master's certificates.
Were you working in Fremont County on October 19th of 2019?
I was.
Were you on shift that day?
No, I was not.
Did you end up receiving a call from someone about an unattended death?
I did.
Who called you?
That was Deputy Allie Greenhall.
Do you know why she ended up reaching out to you?
She reached out to me because she could not get a hold of the on-call detective at the moment.
And when we talk about an unattended death, can you explain to the jury what that is for purposes of law enforcement?
Yeah. A unattended death is any death, whether it's natural, self-inflicted, or otherwise accidental, that has gone on other than one that's not being attended to by a physician.
So if a physician is not present when someone passes away, you may respond out to an unattended death.
That is correct.
At the time in Fremont County, as a detective, did you respond out every time there was an unattended death?
No.
When would you respond out as a detective?
Depending on age, circumstances, possible signs of reasons for death, any obvious wounds or anything that might throw a flag up to whoever was on shift or taking the call.
And when you talk about whoever was on shift or taking the call, what position would that individual hold within the sheriff's office?
That would be a patrolman.
And was Deputy Greenhalgh a patrol officer at the time?
Yes, he was.
When she reached out to you, did you end up speaking with her on October 19th?
I did.
Did you learn who the decedent was?
Yes.
And who was that?
Tamara or Tammy Daybell.
Had you ever heard that name before?
If I had, I couldn't recall at that time.
Had you ever heard the name Chad Daybell at that point in time?
No, I had not.
When you received the call, did you end up asking questions of the deputy?
I did.
Do you recall what some of the inquiries you made were?
Wanted to know what she was seeing, and she described the scene to me and the state of Tammy and what it looked like, along with who found her and who else was on the scene.
At that time, did Deputy Greenalch report anything suspicious to you?
Nothing was reported. No,
Did you provide any direction to Deputy Greenalch as far as what she should do?
I did. I requested of her to take a lot of photos, and my exact wording was to have her take a shit ton of photos.
Did you request she do anything else that you recall?
To talk with the coroner when she got on scene and discuss whether or not to do autopsy or retrieve blood.
And from your understanding, who makes the determination as to whether or not to have an autopsy performed?
Final decision comes down to the coroner.
So that is not a decision ultimately up to law enforcement.
No, it is not.
When you spoke with Deputy Greenalch, did she mention to you anything about pink foam or blood sputum coming from Miss Daybell's mouth?
No, she did not.
How many unattended deaths have you responded out to approximately?
Probably 80 or more.
And back in 2019, would that number have been a little less?
Yes.
Out of those unattended deaths, have you ever responded out to one where you saw the foam or the sputum?
Judge, I'm going to object to relevance.
Overruled.
I had not.
If you were told that, would that have impacted your decision on not responding out?
Yes,
And would you have responded out?
I would have.
Did you do anything else after you received that call from Deputy Greenalch?
I did.
And what did you do?
I called Lieutenant Joe Powell and gave him a update on the call Allie was on, knowing he was a lot closer than I was. And if somebody was going to be responding, he would be the most likely or the quickest one to get there.
And did you share with him the details that you had learned from Deputy Greenalch?
I had.
And again, based on the information you were provided from the deputy, a decision was made not to respond out.
Correct.
But it sounds like since then you'd learned additional information regarding the scene. Is that fair?
Yes,
Such as the pink foam.
correct.
Do you know who the on-call detective was that night?
I do.
And who was that?
That was Detective Vincent Kayakamanu.
At some point, did you learn whether or not Deputy Greenalch also was able to get in touch with him?
She was able to, yes.
So initially, is it fair to say that on October 19th of 2019, outside of the initial response from the deputy, there was not an investigation launched into Tammy's death?
Correct.
At some point in time, did you become involved in an investigation into Tammy Daybell's death?
I did.
Do you recall approximately when that would have been?
For myself, I started about mid-December of 2019.
Do you know when Fremont County Sheriff's Office became involved?
Right at the end of October or the very first of November,
And that would be of 2019.
2019.
At the time you became involved in the investigation into Tammy's death, were you aware of any other related investigations that were ongoing?
I was.
What were those investigations?
So there were quite a few agencies involved for some different reasons. Rexburg Police Department and the FBI were looking for J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. In Gilbert, Arizona, they were investigating the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux And in Chandler, they were doing an investigation into the shooting of Charles Vallow.
And we talked about on October 19th, you had never heard of Tammy or Chad Daybell that you could recall. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Had you ever heard the name back on October 19th? Had you heard of JJ Vallow?
No,
Had you heard of Tylee Ryan?
no,
Had you heard of Lori Vallow?
no,
Alex Cox?
none,
Had you heard of Charles Vallow?
no.
So you learned of these individuals later when you became involved in the investigation. Is that fair?
That would be correct.
And would it be fair to say that it was a joint investigation?
It was, yes.
Was your focus in regards to the investigation on the death of Tammy Daybell?
It was.
Were there specific areas of the investigation that you personally focused on?
Correct. Yes, that there were.
And specifically, did you look into Tammy's health?
I did.
What were some of the things you looked at in relation to Tammy's health?
So one of the things we looked at in the beginning was medical records that we were able to acquire through Seasons Medical and Teton Medical and Walmart Pharmacy.
And in talking about those medical records, you listed 3 different places. Do you know why the records were obtained from Teton and Seasons?
Those were the places that we could find that she had been to when we did our background on the prescription monitoring program through Idaho. It showed she had some prescriptions from those medical facilities. So we were able to get the records from those.
And are you personally the one that received those records?
No, I was not.
At some point, did you review those medical records?
I did.
And we talked about how you located those. And actually, I'm going to withdraw that and back up. When you reviewed those medical records, was there any indication to you in your review of health issues related to Tammy Daybell?
There were just some general health issues. She had been prescribed tramadol for some wrist pain. And then she was also prescribed fluoxetine for managing depression.
At some point, as part of your investigation, did you review statements that had been provided by Chad Daybell to law enforcement and the coroner?
I had, yes.
And were those the statements that were provided on October 19th of 2019?
Yes, they were.
When you looked at those statements, do you recall some of the things Chad had indicated in relation to Tammy's health?
Yes.
What were some of those things?
Some of them were reported as being dizzy, I believe fainting, slowing down during classes.
When you looked at the medical records, did you see any indication or reference to Tammy having any dizziness or dizziness spells?
No, I did not.
Did you see any indication of seizure or seizure-like activity being reported?
None.
Did you see any indication regarding low blood pressure?
No.
Did you see any indication that would reference or explain a slowdown in activity?
I did not.
When you looked at those statements from Chad, did you actually review the reports from the deputy on scene?
I did.
And did you learn who else was on scene or there when the initial deputy arrived?
Yes.
And who else was in the residence?
Garth Daybell.
In those reports, did you ever see Garth, any indication from Garth that he had concerns about his mother's health?
No.
Did you ever see any indication from Chad regarding Tammy having a prior history of anemia?
No.
Did you ever see any indication that Chad had reported he was concerned because of a history of heart conditions in Tammy's family?
None.
In reviewing those reports, did you see any statements made by Emma Daybell at the time of her mother's passing?
Yes, I believe her statement was that she said her mom had been slowing down in one of the fitness classes.
Did you ever get to talk to Emma Daybell?
No, I did not.
Did you make attempts?
Yes,
And she was unwilling to speak with you?
that is correct.
When we talk about the medical records and how you located those, did Chad Daybell ever tell you about any other medical providers? Or did you learn if he told anyone about any other medical providers in law enforcement?
No, there is no other mentions.
Did anyone in his family, any of his children ever provide you information regarding other medical providers to look at?
No, they did not.
Through your investigation, did you learn whether or not Tammy Daybell had some life insurance policies?
Yeah, I did.
What did you learn in regards to that?
I learned that she had 2 life insurance policies. One was through Primerica and the other one was through LifeMap.
And in relation to those insurance policies, through the investigation, are you aware if some documents were obtained from specifically looking at LifeMap?
Yes,
Did you review those responsive documents from LifeMap?
I did.
Do you recall reviewing a form titled Beneficiary Statement?
Yes,
And Your Honor, by stipulation, I believe LifeMap has already been admitted, but I have what's been marked as States Exhibit 152, which is the beneficiary form just referenced, or the beneficiary statement.
And are you referring to both the beneficiary statement and the admitted exhibit?
This is just the beneficiary statement that's been marked as 152.
Okay, and that would be a new unadmitted exhibit at this time?
Correct.
Okay,
It's just part of a stipulated to exhibit, but only one part of it, so it's been marked separately.
all right. And are you moving to admit that at this time?
I would be moving for admission.
Any objection to exhibit 152 being admitted?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, exhibit 152 is admitted.
And Your Honor, if I can, I have a courtesy copy for the court and then the actual exhibit. If I can have the exhibit handed to the witness.
Thank you. Yes.
And if you look at that, Detective Mattingly, is that a accurate copy of the beneficiary statement you reviewed?
yes,
And Your Honor, I am going to ask to publish this. I'd be publishing off the Elmo.
Okay. You're permitted to do that.
Do you want the exhibit published? I have a copy, but would you like the actual exhibit published?
Yes, please.
And Detective, I think there may be a laser pointer up there. If that's beneficial as we look at this.
Could you pull that down for a second and we'll have a quick sidebar?
Quick sidebar. That really hasn't been a thing yet. Not really. And I agree with Dana that I don't see that the testimony or the cross-examination of any of the friends and those who were with her in her classes did anything to make the jury see that, or see any mitigators at all when it comes to her health. I tried to really see if I could tell if they're coming back. I'll hold that note. I was going to talk about the lividity and falling out of bed part.
Redacted a personal identifier information off of that before publishing. So you can continue, Ms. Blake. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Detective, you indicated you recognize this form.
Yes.
And actually, I'm going to move it up. At the bottom of the form, can you see who signed this? Or not at the very bottom, but can you see who filled this out?
Chad Daybell.
And actually also, do you see the date that he signed this?
It'll be 10/30/2019.
And again, Tammy was pronounced dead on October 19th of 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then if we go back to the top.
Judge,
Yes.
I don't know what's going on, but I'm seeing motion in the jury pool.
Is your monitor not working? Oh, we got a monitor not working. Thanks for,
Looks like
Somebody's-
maybe none of them are.
okay. See if we can get that sorted out. Thank you. I think that might have gotten it. Still no? We're gonna have a tech issue with that. I don't think we can resolve that quickly. For now, I'm gonna suggest we keep moving where the jurors can still see that up there, and I'll note also you will be provided this exhibit for your deliberations if you need to reference it back.
Detective Mattingly, when we look at this form, we've already indicated it was filled out by Chad Daybell, correct?
Correct.
And on there, there's a designation about when the health of the deceased first became impaired. Do you see that under the medical information?
I do. That'll be on the left.
What was the date that Chad Daybell wrote in there?
October 18th, 2019.
So the day before Tammy died is when he indicated her health became impaired?
Yes.
And I guess let me back up there. The day before Tammy was declared deceased, he'd indicated her health had started to have changes.
Yes.
Can you also see the last date that she attended work?
I'll be on the right side. The date indicated that she last worked was on October 18th, 2019.
And then under there, there's a section attending physicians. Can you read into the record what Chad wrote under physician name?
Under the physician name, he wrote none. She died in her sleep.
So on this particular form, Chad Daybell didn't indicate that she was seeing any medical provider.
Correct.
Detective Mattingly, did anything on that beneficiary's form support the statements Chad Daybell previously gave to law enforcement?
No.
What else, if anything, did you do in relation to looking into Tammy's health?
I also got a search warrant from Fitbit.
And why did you end up requesting a search warrant from Fitbit?
As we were reviewing the crime scene photos, on a nightstand by Tammy's side of the bed was a Fitbit. And knowing the information that could possibly be on Fitbit, we requested a search warrant. Mhm.
Did you receive responsive documents from Fitbit?
We did.
And did you yourself review those?
I did.
And Your Honor, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 108. It is an affidavit of records from the custodian from Fitbit. I believe this is also a stipulated to exhibit pursuant to that, but I do have that affidavit for the court and would move for its admission.
All right, exhibit 108's been offered. Is there any objection?
Judge, it was a stipulated agreement of the parties that this information would be allowed.
All right, then without objection, exhibit 108 is admitted.
And Detective Mattingly, in looking at that, have you seen that document before?
Yes, I have.
And you reviewed the responsive documents that that's referencing?
Yes.
Based on your review of those documents, was there quite a bit of information?
Yes, there was.
And backing up a little bit, what is it that made you get a search warrant to Fitbit or to request documents from them?
So Fitbit, in reviewing what they had to offer, we were looking for heart rate and sleep patterns and times that people are asleep, along with their activity. The reason we were looking for those is to hopefully narrow down the exact time of death or a closer period to do so.
And did you actually locate a Fitbit at the Daybell residence?
No, we did not.
How did you come to determine that Tammy Daybell may have worn a Fitbit?
So we found a picture of the Fitbit from the scene photos that Allie had taken. And then from there, we also looked into her Facebook account, which had several pictures where you could see her wearing a Fitbit.
And as part of your review of that Fitbit data, did you prepare an exhibit for today?
Yes,
Do you believe that that exhibit would aid in your testimony?
yes, it would.
Do you believe it would aid the jurors in understanding the evidence?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 108A, and I would move for its admission.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
Exhibit 108A is admitted.
And similarly, Judge, this is actually going to be a jump drive, but I do have a print off as a courtesy.
Okay. Are you going to be publishing this, Ms. Blake?
Yes, Your Honor.
I think we might have tech available to come in here quickly and potentially get the jurors' monitors reconnected. Okay, they're on their way. Let's take a real quick, just stand up break and maybe the jurors can be excused to the hallway for a minute. And I'm hoping this will just be quick, but we'll see if we can get those monitors working again.
All right, please.
Okay, who tripped over the cord and knocked out all the monitors? It wasn't me this time. That's usually what I say whenever this stuff happens. Oops, sorry, I tripped over the cord. Not really. So I'm going to go back and read once they, yeah, okay, I'm on a break now because the judge just walked off. So I'm going to read what Linda's been putting in. So we got, I'm going to start back at the first part of what he was testifying to. This is Detective Bruce Mattingly. Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney Lindsay Black is questioning Mattingly on his background. She's asking him about an unattended death call on October 19th, 2019. It's in reference to Tammy Daybell. Blake is asking Mattingly about Tammy Daybell's medical records. She is asking if there was any indication of health issues. Mattingly says there were general health issues. Let me put myself up here. Gear. Oh, yeah, I did it again. There we go. General health issues. She had been prescribed medication for wrist pain and medication for managing depression. Tammy was reported by Chad to faint and slow down and being dizzy. Chad Daybell and his attorney, John Pryor, appear to be chatting, whispering to each other a lot today. It's a good note because really they have not been doing much of that with each other. And in my opinion, Chad has been sitting like a stone on purpose. He is trying to keep all of his body mannerisms and all of the body language as quiet as possible. But every now and again, he slips a lip, this kind of thing at certain things, different things that kind of, if you know anything about body language, I love to watch the things on body language. You can kind of tell when certain things hit a certain way, and it'll show in his mannerisms on his face, his hands, the way he holds his hands, all kinds of things. There was an exhibit up on the screen, and it has been taken down. Then they went to sidebar, which I didn't hear the sidebar, so that was a quick one then. Oh wait, yes I did. Did I? Yes, I must have. My brain today is in a major fog because my sinuses are killing me and I feel like I'm looking through a curtain. So Mattingly is being asked about reviewing reports from Tammy Daybell the day she died. Emma had said her mom had been slowing down, according to reports. Emma was unwilling to speak to Mattingly. Mattingly made attempts to talk to her. The sidebar ended. The exhibit is on a projector screen. It appears to be life insurance policy. This is very hard to see on the live feed. Yes. I tried to enlarge it on my end. It didn't help a bit. A monitor is not working. Then we cut to Chad Daybell filled out this form. He wrote October 18th, 2019, the day before Tammy died. Chad said her health started to have changes. Oh my goodness. You know, when these detectives do all this stuff and they're going over all this evidence and you see things like being able to line up timelines, it must give you the major heebies, the major chills to see that a life insurance policy was filled out the day before she died. And he's been speaking about her dying soon or whatever it was he was saying, whether it was soon or young or whatever the heck it was he was saying about her dying. He's been doing that, I think, since 2016. So now we have 3 years he's been saying that to everyone, prepping for the fact that a life insurance policy was filled out the day before she passes away. Is that a coincidence? Oh, I like the fact that I can say this kind of stuff and, you know, have my opinions be my opinions and not have to worry about whether or not I might upset somebody with my, with a disagreement or something. And that's what I want our chat to be. So anyway, so we got chat, on Tammy's side of the bed, there was a Fitbit, and Mattingly said they requested a search warrant from Fitbit to look into her health. That's actually a really good question that Toby asked. And I bet you anything that's why they're, he probably should have put that away somewhere, not had it beside the bed. Oops. Let's see here. There will be a quick break, and then they'll figure out the monitor situation. So that's where we are. As you guys are saying, let's go back up here. Cheryl says their testimony will be useful when his kids come and testify that she was sickly. Yes, but if they get all this information in first and we see more of the info on the Fitbit, maybe that will change things. Maybe it'll shed light on something. Trying to make sure I'm not putting anything up too personal from you guys on the screen. So yeah, this one. So Wendy H. So Wendy went down the rabbit hole of this family. Tylee's dad abused Colby in all ways. So sad. I didn't know that. But Colby has that last name, right? Yeah, he was like Ryan. And Christy is back with some information on POTS. Happens when you stand up and get better when you lie down, such as dizziness or lightheadedness, fainting or almost fainting. Yes, but in her case, she had the opposite. She had low rate and fainted upon standing. Isn't that correct? I'm not seeing POTS in the symptoms in this situation because it was upon standing that her blood pressure would drop, not the laying down, right? Anybody get that out of that? Not that I'm trying to say it's not a thing, but I was looking at it when you were talking about it, Christy, and it wasn't matching up with what I was hearing because the symptoms that they're saying was low blood pressure and all that kind of stuff. Low heart rate upon standing, which is what it was for me every time I would stand up when I had the anemia stuff. It would be like, oh, here we go, plop, and I fainted a few times in church. I would make a joke out of it after I'd come out, and I would say, yeah, the Lord touched me and I fainted. I got the bits of the Holy Ghost and I passed out. Sorry, not to. That's how I was so embarrassed. But I had no idea. I kept drinking water thinking I was doing the right thing. Whatever. Let's see here. Funny when when they went for that Fitbit, it was wait. So they weren't able to get the info from the Fitbit, Cheryl? Well, wait, so somebody did think of it, right? Because isn't that what Cheryl just said? Funny how when they went for that Fitbit, it was gone. Wait, what? So they, and I'm sure people have already answered this. No, Chad is on trial for all three. The info should be in the description. It's for JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. So I gotta stop putting the accent on the end of her name. I keep doing it. So, because I have trouble believing somebody so healthy, health conscious, as to exercise and have a Fitbit wouldn't see a doctor over fainting and seizures. That actually is an interesting thought. Where did this come from, and who convinced whom? If they have records or anything that would show that she did in fact go, which is why I think they are bringing up the wrist injury, that she went to the wrist because she was worried she broke a bone. So maybe that's what they're using that for. I think they're starting to come back. I can see the mouse moving. The only fainting on standing was reported by Chad. That right there. And then, so that's an answer to for Ryan. Joseph Ryan was the one who raised Colby. Is that what you were saying there? Trying to keep up, especially working around kids. Oh, it's postural hypo meaning low blood pressure, hypotension. Hyper is high blood pressure. That's my guess. Like I said, I'm interested to see what it says. Yes, absolutely. So that's the only reason that I was, because I looked at POTS when you were saying that, and I was kind of looking at it going, well, it kind of, I don't know if it fits that, but we'll find out. And what Toby said, or is it Toby? Yeah, that the only one who brought that up was Chad. Well, that's all the info that they've gotten so far is from Chad and what the kids have said, because Dad told the kids this is what, in my opinion, the info came from Dad telling the kids, And I think it's interesting that when he was in the with the dash cam and he was talking to Emma, and he tells her, well, you can say whatever you feel, you can say as much as you feel. I thought that was an interesting way of wording things. And Wendy says, I think it's been testified she only had low blood pressure on the pass. Yeah. They had to get the info from a manufacturer. Oh, for the Fitbit. Oh. Yes, they did, but I'm pretty sure they couldn't find it. Isn't that what he said, Steven? The device was gone, so they subpoenaed the info from the manufacturer. Yay. You are holding, Stevie gets to hold on to my attention span, and she gets to get all the stuff that I miss, because my attention span is, but that's what I like about doing this kind of thing, is that we can all talk together and yeah, you got that. Yeah, I got that. And I don't know if it's that. Oh yeah, it could be that or whatever. And that we can, agree, disagree, and still keep going. And nobody's upset with anybody. I grew up where you had to believe everything that everyone else believed. And if you wavered from it, you were out. So I try to keep that from being a thing in my head. So he has 8 charges. Yes. I got here. Wait, I'll show you. I have the charges. I did a little thingy. If I can find it. There we go, right here. Oop, there we go. And I thought it was, oh my God, he's dreaming. Does that hurt your head, Dougie? So, okay, where did I leave off? I get it. They're not going to the doctor's. I get they are not going to the doctor stuff. Okay. Oh yeah. Sorry. There I am. I'll go start from here. Yes, absolutely. Sadly, there are some of us who will do everything in their power to avoid and probably will never go. And when she went to the doctor for her wrist injury, they took her blood pressure and apparently it wasn't noted as low. Yes, they saw it through pics deputy had taken and verified by looking at the pics of her on Facebook, but it was nowhere to be found. Okay. 2 counts of insurance fraud concerning Tammy Daybell. Yes. I think it's running did I put it in there in the charges? I think so. Yes. Colby's stepdad raised and oh, yikes. And yeah, we know he's fluent in. And we have made it to the bottom. And now I have a dog that's barking. Oh, I need to put this up more often. Whenever I get into saying my opinion, I need to put that up. Oh. Stephen says that Fitbit is a big problem for Chad. I'd imagine Pryor must be having a bit of a fit about that bit of evidence. I know. My brain went to the same place hers did. So they must be struggling fixing the monitors. Yeah, I wear a iWatch all the time. I take it off for bed, but because it has to be charged every night, or it doesn't last that long. But yeah, it does. It tells me if I'm doing something and I'm getting into my what I call the flappies, or get overly excited with the whole stimming stuff. It'll tell me that I'm working out. I guess it's because my heart rate goes up. It's like, oh, you're doing really well exercising today. And I'm on the couch going, flapping to the music or something. And it does tell me that I'm exercising when I'm crocheting and knitting. So that's good to know that I get some exercise in. Yes. Yeah, Stevie. It has to be put on its little thing to charge every night. It uses up a lot of its power, and also the thing that drives me crazy about Apple products is they only go for about a year or two before they start losing power easily. And Apple, and this is documented and verified and all that stuff, that Apple has it programmed into their product that the battery only lasts a certain amount of time, which forces you then to have to go back and upgrade or get a new one. And so I use my phone and all my Apple products until I can't handle it anymore. I just keep plugging them in till eventually I can't do anything with them anymore. Then I get a new one. But this is my first Apple Watch, and I love it. I got the biggest one possible because I'm blind as a bat and I have to can't see the face of it. But I love my Apple products. I'm the only Apple person in my house. Everybody else is Android. Flapping to the music counts. It does. I do work up, I do get something from it. Mine tells me when I need to stand because I have it set so it does that throughout the day. Because otherwise, I have to be reminded it's time to stand. So I'll turn off the camera and stand when it tells me to. I don't know. Do you know that the ice cream machine at McDonald's and Sonic are the same machine, different contract? One gets cleaned overnight, the other just quits and tells them to call a technician. There's nothing worse than cleaning the shake machine at McDonald's. Ugh. It's awful. Everyone, when I was working there, everyone was like, yeah, it's not my day. Okay, I'll do it, fine. It's a horrible, horrible mess. My feet and legs dance when I'm sleeping. Oh, you have restless legs. My husband and I both have the same. He didn't have it, now he does. I have restless legs. Had it forever. Unless I'm constantly moving my legs. I'm also a whirling dervish and trying to sleep. My husband says he doesn't notice, but I don't believe him. I'm always running around doing laundry and such. That and the deep fryer. Oh my god, yes. Yeah, we had a cleaning or maintenance person who did all that stuff. They would empty out the vats every so often, whatever the time schedule was for it. So that was all done overnight and didn't have to mess with that. But yeah, the shake machine we would have to clean sometimes during the day. And one of the counter people would be the ones to clean it. Yuck. This is true. It's very annoying. It keeps me up and on. It's better now, but I have changing the grease. Yes, I have a issue with Charlie horses. That seems to be a familial thing, and I'm on all the stuff, all the vitamins, and it's better now that I've got all my stuff regulated. But I still will have a bout of Charlie horses in the middle of the night. That's leg cramps. For those of you who don't know what that means, Charlie horse, but that's what I call them. And boy, are they awful because every muscle on both legs will go at once. I'll be laying there and it'll hit me like wham. And then all of a sudden I can't move. I cannot get up. I can't do anything. I'm stuck in the position that I'm in until it calms down. It's better now that I've gotten stuff regulated with my vitamins and stuff. It's, I've gotten it all like whatever it is that causes it, but boy, is it awful. And it seems that
All rise.
both my
This report
sons,
again in session.
both my sons have inherited it as well.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, we can have our jurors return, please.
As soon as they come in, I'll say it. I'm waiting. On that, I have extreme leg and feet cramps. Yes, it's awful. You get that, that one that about takes your breath away, but imagine all of them. Oh, and by the way, calling 911 does not help. They do not give you anything for leg cramps. Yes, I did do that one time. The pain was so bad, and I couldn't get it to stop. And they kept, what do you want us to do for you, ma'am? Give me something. And they're like, we can't do that. We'd have to take you to the hospital. And I went, okay, never mind. I
All
felt
right,
so
please.
bad. All rise. I felt so bad because I called them out there needlessly, not knowing. Oops.
Here's our president got for you, Art.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we're back on the record on CR 2221-1623, completed our mid-afternoon recess. Ms. Blake, if you'd like to continue with direct, you may. I'll remind the witness you're still under oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
And thank you, Your Honor. I think where the state had left off is we were asking to publish, I believe it's Exhibit 108A.
And you may do that.
And Detective Mattingly, we were talking about the Fitbit information that you received. On this first slide here, can we talk a little bit about what we're seeing? What information did this provide you?
So this provided the Fitbit account for Tammy Daybell. And we looked at trying to verify the account as Tammy's. We were able to use that or do that by using her email, tammy.daybell@gmail.com. And we also used her date of birth that was inputted along with the listed friends that was on her Fitbit site, which were three of her children, Emma, Leah, and Seth.
And that information is not showing on this slide, but was additional information provided through Fitbit.
Yes,
And then on this, we see a user created. Do you see that date on there?
on the user create, the second
Yes.
one from the top.
Yes.
Yes,
What did that indicate to you?
that was when the account was created.
And then if we look down a little bit, there's a paired date. I think it's the second from the bottom. And that is a different date than the top one, correct?
Yes, it is.
What did the paired date indicate to you?
To me, that indicates the most recent device that was paired with Fitbit.
So Tammy may have had an account before, but received a new device.
She may have had a different device and got a new device. Yes,
So when she got the new device, that would create a different paired date.
yes.
And were you able to see at the bottom there, the last sync date?
Yes, the last sync date is 10/20/2019 at 2029.
And again, Tammy Daybell was pronounced dead on October 19th of 2019.
Yes, the day before this,
So the last sync date was the day after her passing.
correct.
And this Fitbit device itself was never recovered.
It was not.
Outside of looking to assign it, who this device belonged to, And you'd also talked about you were looking to try to find information regarding the heart rate. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So we're looking for the heart rate to determine a better exact time or a closer time that Tammy passed away.
And were you able to get information regarding the heart rate from the Fitbit return?
No, we were not. The device, as it's listed up there, is a Alta device, which I learned is their base model. It'll show the heart rate as it's going on. You can sit there and look and see the heart rate, but it does not record with Fitbit.
Then I think one of the other things you indicated you wanted to look at was possibly sleep patterns or any sleep data that was recorded.
Yes.
What were you able to determine in relation to the sleep data?
The sleep data was very sparse from day to day or month to month. Like it would, for an example, this may not be accurate, but it might show on the 17th that she slept for an hour and a half. On another day, it might show 20 minutes, but on most days, it didn't record any sleep patterns.
Did that lead you to believe that she did not routinely wear it at night?
That's what it led me to believe, yes.
So ultimately, were you able to gain much information outside of learning that she didn't wear it at night?
Beyond that, that was all I could figure out.
And then what were some of the other things that you looked at in relation to the Fitbit data?
So the other things that were provided were the step counts from day to day, month to month for the year.
And if we look at this next slide, can you talk about what we're seeing here?
So these are the steps per month that was recorded by Fitbit when Tammy wore her device.
And when we see it starting with October and goes down to January and then a grand total steps, was this January of 2019 through October of 2019?
Yes,
So it's going in the opposite order.
correct.
When you reviewed this, did you make any determination with regard to those steps in relation to your investigation?
So when I was reviewing the steps, the numbers to me looked fairly big, but I didn't know what that meant as far as activity. Was it above average, normal, or below? I wasn't sure. So looking at those numbers, I was able to also research via the internet and found out the CDC recommended guidelines were recommended to have at least 10,000 steps per day. And these were the amount of steps that she took for those months.
And out of those months, was she generally above average?
Out of all the months, generally, she was above average. There were a few months that she was not.
And the months that she was not above average, was she close to the average?
Yes, she was.
Any indication to you that there were months that she severely slowed down in activity?
Nothing that was severely slowed down, no.
And when we look at that last month of October, again, Tammy was pronounced dead on October 19th in the early morning hours. Is that correct?
Yes,
So that is not the full month.
that is not a full month.
From your review of things, did it appear that she was on track to be above average for the month of October of 2019?
Yes.
Did you look at any additional things in relation to Tammy's health? outside of the Fitbit?
Mm,
And maybe I'll back up. Did you conduct any interviews with anyone that knew Tammy?
yes, I did.
Did you conduct interviews with friends and family of Tammy?
Yes,
And through those interviews, did you learn anything that would support the statements made by Chad Daybell on October 19th of 2019 regarding Tammy's health?
no.
Generally, what did you learn through your investigation regarding Tammy's health?
Found that she was reported as being very active, a go-getter.
Ms. Blake.
When you conducted the interviews, did you interview multiple of Tammy's friends or coworkers?
I did.
Did you interview some family members? Any indication that Tammy's health was slowing down?
None.
Was there any indication that Tammy had seizures?
None.
Any indication Tammy had low blood pressure?
No.
Any indication Tammy had fainting spells?
No.
So from all the interviews you conducted, anything to support the statements made by Chad Daybell on October 19th of 2019?
There was none.
As part of your investigation, we talked about some life insurance policies that Tammy had. And we've gone over the life map a little bit. And I believe you already testified, but there was another life insurance policy.
Yes, there was.
And what was that one?
Primerica?
And Your Honor, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 122. It's my understanding that this is being admitted by stipulation, and it contains the business record certification.
All right, Exhibit 122 has been offered. Is there any objection? All right, it'll be reviewed by council.
And I will indicate there's a copy for counsel, the court, and a courtesy copy for Your Honor.
Thank you.
And Detective Mattingly, I'll just have you look through those pages. And do those appear to be an accurate depiction of documents you reviewed?
They are.
And in relation to the life insurance policies, were you able to determine the total amount of life insurance on Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
What was the total amount of coverage?
So on the Primerica insurance, it was 300,000.
And do you recall in relation to Life Map what the total was?
130,000.
And when you looked at those policies on the Primerica, was Chad also an insured?
He was.
What about the Life Map? Was Chad also an insured? Only Tammy?
Only Tammy.
Who was Tammy's beneficiary for the Life Map?
Chad Daybell.
Who was Tammy's beneficiary for Primerica?
Chad Daybell.
Through the investigation, were you able to determine if that life insurance was ever paid out?
Yes.
And what did you learn?
I learned both of them had been paid out.
And who were they paid to?
To Chad Daybell.
I have no further questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. Which one?
I guess I maybe do just need to clarify, was that last exhibit admitted?
I don't think we actually got that admitted on the record, so you reviewed it. Is there any objection to it being admitted? We've now discussed.
I just don't know if we officially put that in the record, so I would move for its admission.
Thank you, Ms. Blake. It is admitted now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Let's try that again. Good afternoon,
There you
detectives.
go. That sounds great. Thank you. Good afternoon.
You mentioned that you had reached out to speak to the family members, the immediately family members, and you know who those are, right?
Yes,
You know about Emma,
I
right?
do.
What are the dates and times that you tried to reach out to Emma to talk to her about this case and the Fitbit and all of that?
I'd have to go back and look. I couldn't tell you that.
You have
exactly.
notes to go back and look that could refresh your recollection?
I might, yeah.
Okay, those at the prosecutor's table?
Yes, they are.
With the court's permission, could I allow the detective to refresh his recollection?
Yes.
Your Honor, could I ask for that last question to be repeated back?
Go ahead.
Could I have the one before that? Thank you.
And it'll be the one before that, I think, too. Thank you.
I
You
don't
ready?
have those dates.
I'm sorry?
I don't have those dates.
Oh, you don't have any dates in your notebook reflecting that you tried to speak with Emma Murray?
No,
Do you have any recordings or any body cams or anything that would help you in determining whether you actually ever did talk to Emma Murray?
yes, those were recorded.
Those were recorded?
Was recorded, yes.
Attempts to talk to Emma Murray?
Yes,
Okay, but you don't know the times.
I don't.
You don't know the frequencies. The frequency with which you talked to her, how many times?
I talked to her one time.
Do you know what time that was?
It would have been in the afternoon after school.
Yeah, what month was that?
No, that was so long ago, I can't tell you an exact month.
Okay. You approached her after school?
I did.
Okay. Did she try to talk to you?
No,
And that was recorded, you said?
yes,
And how was that recorded? By body cam or an audio?
Audio.
And you still have possession of that audio?
Yes, we do.
Let's move on to Garth. How many times did you try to talk to Garth?
I was not assigned to talk to Garth.
Okay, so you never spoke to Garth
That
about
one I
any of
did
these.
not.
You didn't talk to him about this Fitbit or anything else, right?
No,
Okay. And you're the one who was the responsibility to do the research and the investigation on this Fitbit, right?
yes,
Okay. Okay. And as far as the insurance is concerned on their mother and Chad, that area was within your exclusive purview as well. Is that correct?
we shared that.
With who?
That would be with some of the FBI to review the numbers.
Okay, but essentially you were the contact guy and the initial guy to look into it. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you didn't talk to Garth. What about Joe Murray?
No, that he refused as well.
Okay, he refused? When did you try to talk to him?
I did not.
Okay,
We split those assignments up.
okay. Okay, so Emma Murray is Chad's daughter, right?
Correct.
And Joe Murray is married to Emma, right?
Yes,
Okay, and you know Joe Murray because you went and the family you're talking about, you talked to Ed and Charlene Murray, right?
I don't know if I've ever met Joe, but I have.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you whether you talked to Ed and Charlene Murray
That one, yes, I have talked to them.
and you interviewed them, right?
I did.
So when you're talking to the prosecutor about contacting the family to discuss this, really what you're talking about is the Emma's in-laws, right?
In addition to, yes,
In addition to who else in the family?
talked with Sam or Tammy's sister, Sam,
Okay,
and her husband, Jason.
okay. They didn't live in proximity to Chad, right? They didn't live within close proximity of
Close
Chad.
proximity? No, they did not.
Okay. And you're aware that Emma lived kitty corner from Chad's house, right?
At the time, yes. Mhm.
You're also aware that Emma and Tammy had a very, very close relationship, right?
I've heard that, yes.
Right. And Joe lives kitty corner with his wife Emma, directly kitty corner from Chad's house as well. Right?
Correct.
Okay. And you're also aware the other person you didn't talk to was Garth. And Garth actually lived with Chad and Tammy for a significant amount of time. You remember that?
I do.
You didn't talk to Garth though, right?
No,
Okay. And then Chad's other child, Seth. Did you ever talk to Seth?
no, I did not.
Okay. Did you ever talk to Chad's daughter, Leah?
No,
Did you ever talk to Chad's youngest son? Youngest son, Mark.
no,
Okay. But the last three, Garth, Seth, Leah, and Mark, you didn't even reach out to try to talk to them, did you?
I did not. That was for
Okay.
somebody else to do.
Okay. But nobody else reached out to talk to him either. Are you aware of that?
No, I believe they did.
Okay. I guess we'll see then, right? So the interesting thing I noted was that on the map, I think the MapQuest insurance, it talked about the last known health issue, right? Remember that when the prosecutor brought that up with you?
I do.
Right, and he put down October 18th, right?
Yes,
Right, and you were aware by reviewing Officer Greenall's report that that was the night that Chad talked about Tammy throwing up and having cough fits, right?
yes,
So that would have been the last known health issue that she would have had the night before she passed away, right?
Objection, Your Honor. This misstates the evidence.
Sustained.
You're aware that Chad had to take care of Tammy in the middle of the night because she was having fits and throwing up the night before she passed away, right? Officer?
pardon me. That's what I had heard, yes.
Okay, all right. Now, you reviewed the medical reports, correct, of Tammy Daybell?
I did.
And those were pretty sparse reports, right? Teton was only a couple of pages, right?
Yes,
Right. And on Teton, the first page, and the jury will have a chance to look at that, it talked about Tammy's anemia, right?
As a past history, yes.
Right. And it didn't show anything in the future that Tammy's anemia was ever cured or resolved. You never found any information about that, did you?
None was disclosed as being
Right.
resolved. It was just listed as past, meaning to me, it's done, it's over.
Well, you don't know if it's done or over. Are you a doctor?
I am not.
All right. Do you know whether anemia could actually be cured or not?
Through an online search, it says, yes, it can be.
Okay. But it takes a certain amount of medication, it takes a certain amount of treatment, takes a certain amount of prescription drugs and a series of treatment to at least stabilize it. That's what you read, stabilize it, right?
No, I didn't read that about stabilizing.
Well, the question is, where's that medical history that she treated it and cured it?
I don't have that.
Well, you don't have it because it doesn't exist, right? Correct?
I don't know if it exists or not. We just don't have that.
Okay. But what you do have is that Tammy had a habit of not wanting to go to the doctors to get treatment for anything, right?
Objection, Your Honor, states facts not in evidence.
Sustained.
Are you aware that Tammy did not like to go to doctors and didn't like to get treatment for various medical maladies?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
You can answer that, sir.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Tammy didn't like to go to the doctor, right?
Correct.
Okay. And at the time that she was discovered to be dead, are you aware of all the herbal and medicinal medicines that were in her cabinet at that time?
Yes,
She was doing a lot of self-treatment with oils and herbs. Do you recall that?
I do.
Okay. Okay. She was also taking Prozac as a result of that, right? A result of some depression, excuse me.
Objection, Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Sustained.
Were you aware that she was taking fluoxetine?
I have difficulty with that as well. Fluoxetine.
Fluoxetine, thank you.
Yes,
I'll say it wrong 10 more times and everybody's watching me say that, right? Fluoxetine. You were aware she was taking that.
yes,
Generic form of Prozac.
yes.
And that was for depression. And in addition to taking the fluoxetine, she was also self-treating with essential oils, with herbs and a variety of other remedies, self-help remedies. You're aware of that as well, right?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
I'm asking if he's aware of it, Judge.
Overruled.
Are you aware of it?
Yes,
Okay. And you're also aware that at the time that Chad was interviewed, he was sobbing, he was crying, and he was emotional, right?
I heard that.
Yeah. And at the time that he was still able to say, listen, she had fainting spells, she had dizziness, she had all of those conditions that she described in Officer Greenall's report, correct?
Yes,
Now, your wife dies and you discover her because she falls out of the bed. You call 911 and then police officers start interviewing him.
Objection, Your Honor, that's a narrative the state would move to strike.
Sustained.
So Chad's sobbing and crying, and you're expecting him to recite exactly what her medical history is at the time that he's emotionally distraught about his wife's death, right?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative, and it's a narrative.
Sustained.
The fact that that Chad Daybell was sobbing, would that be a position in your experience where someone would be able to effectively provide information about their medical history and all of the things that may have been going on with their wife?
through my experience, yes.
Oh, so when someone's emotionally distraught, they're able to recite everything in your experience, right?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Sustained.
And then we have Garth Daybell, who was described as quiet and reserved. And there really was no effort to talk to him, right? Right?
That I don't know.
Okay. And as someone who's going through shock as described by, Bred to Die, would you expect that he'd be also able to dictate or explain to you what his mother's health history is?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
You can answer it.
Given time, yes, through my experience.
Given time, right? After he gets over the fact that they discovered their mother dead on the floor, after that, you give him enough time, he could probably get around to it, right?
Yes,
Okay. You don't know how much time that would be though, right?
it varies from individual.
But your experience doesn't tell you that it's instantaneous, right?
Correct.
Right. Just like Chad Daybell sobbing, it's not going to be an instantaneous answer, is it?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Now, on the life insurance policy, the Primerica account, and let me know when you're ready. Good. Okay. On the life insurance policy, that Primerica account for the 300,000 was established in 2002, right?
April, I believe, yes, 2002.
And on that life insurance policy in 2002, Chad had one for Tammy, right?
Yes,
And Tammy had one for Chad.
yes.
And the beneficiary in the event that Chad passes away would have been who?
Tammy,
And in the event Tammy passes away, the beneficiary would have been Chad, right?
correct.
Okay. And they set that up back in 2002, correct?
Yes,
And there was no action on that, right? No other modifications or changes of any significance, correct?
correct.
Okay. And then we go to the map, I'll forget the word, MapQuest, I think it is.
Life map.
Life map, I'm sorry.
No, you're,
Life map, thank you. On Life map, initially, the insurance was set at 50,000.
initially, yes.
Right. And as part of your investigation, were you able to determine that that 50,000 was the base that was available for someone in their first year of employment at the school district?
Yes,
Okay, so Tammy was automatically given the initial 50,000, right?
yes, she was.
And then after the first year, that's only where she would have been eligible for the additional upgrade to the rest of the insurance, correct?
She would be available, or she had that option to do so.
Right. She could have done it or she could not have done it.
Yes,
And that's very cost-effective insurance. Did you look into that?
it is.
Very inexpensive, right?
It is.
Okay. Now, you talked about not being able to locate the Fitbit. Can you tell me who was wearing the Fitbit on the 5 or 6 months that you put those numbers up on the board?
I cannot.
We don't know who was wearing that Fitbit. We don't know if it was Emma, right?
We don't know.
You didn't talk to Emma. You don't know who was wearing it.
I do not know.
You don't know how it was used or how it was. What you're doing is you're explaining to this jury that what you have are basically numbers, right?
I do have numbers.
And what you don't have is you don't have who was using it, how they were using it, or when they were using it, correct?
We know when they were using it.
Okay. Now, I know that you talked to Ed and Charlene, right?
Yes,
So you have some insight a little bit about Tammy and her use of that Fitbit, right?
I do.
Right. And as part of that, you were able to learn that there was a family competition when it came to the Fitbit. Remember that?
I do.
And do you remember when Charlene mentioned on the recording that you taped, and thank you for recording it, that Charlene said that she would go to bed at night and she'd be.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Sustained.
Were you able to gather some information as to the competition between Tammy and the rest of the family regarding the Fitbit?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Overruled.
Okay, you can answer.
Yes,
And at this point, you were also able to determine, as a result of this competition, that certain activities took place. Certain people would go to bed at night being ahead on their Fitbit device. You learned some information about that?
yes,
Okay. And through your investigation, you learned that that person was Charlene Murray, right?
correct.
Okay. And you also learned as a result that the next morning, surprisingly, Charlene would find that she was now behind on the Fitbit race, right?
Yes,
And do you recall which family members were involved in this so-called competition?
so if I remember correctly, it was Ed and Charlene and Tammy.
Okay. And in interviewing the Murrays, Ed and Charlene, this was a little bit of a, Tammy was a competitive person,
That's what I understand, yes.
didn't like to lose. Right?
Yes, correct, she did not.
Okay. But you don't know how that Fitbit was used when you calculated these numbers, correct?
Correct,
And you don't know who was using that Fitbit and running those numbers up, right?
I do not.
And you also don't know the manner in which those Fitbit numbers were accumulated on the particular device. Is that correct?
Correct.
Judge, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, that concludes cross-examination. Ms. Blake, if you'd like any redirect, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Mattingly, you've indicated it's fair to say this was a joint investigation.
Yes,
Which agencies were involved?
we had members of the FBI, Rexburg Police Department, Chandler, Arizona, and Gilbert, Arizona, along with Fremont County.
At some point, was the Attorney General's office also involved?
Yes, they were.
And when it came to, you were asked a lot about interviews with Chad's children just
Yes,
now.
yes,
And I think you'd started to say that different duties were split between different agencies and investigators. Is that fair?
that is fair.
Did you review and discuss the case with other officers?
Yes,
Based on your investigation and your understanding, did any of Chad's kids come forward with information?
Overruled.
Did any of Chad's children voluntarily come forward with information?
not one.
Do you recall attempting to speak with Emma about the results of her mother's autopsy?
Yes,
Would that have been around sometime in February of 2021,
it could have been, I don't know.
sometime after the autopsy results were received?
After the autopsy results, yes.
Was Emma willing to hear about those results?
No,
Was Emma willing to speak with you?
she was not.
Did Emma provide you any information about her mother's health at that time?
Nothing.
You were asked about knowing that Tammy didn't like to go to the doctor. Do you know where that information originated?
I believe that came from Chad and his children.
You didn't personally know Tammy. Is
I
that
did
correct?
not.
So the only information you had to go on is what was provided by Chad and or his kids.
Yes,
And you were asked similarly if Tammy would self-treat with homeopathic medications or other things. Do you know where that information originated?
that'd be through Tammy's family, Chad and her children.
So you don't personally know whether or not she used those homeopathic medicines
I
or
don't,
treatments,
I don't.
just what's reported by Chad and his children.
Yes,
Then talked a lot about the Fitbit. On that first slide, we saw that it was registered to Tammy's Gmail. Is that correct?
it was.
And I think you'd also mentioned seeing Tammy wearing that in Facebook photos. Do you recall that?
I do.
Any reason to believe Tammy wasn't using the Fitbit?
I don't.
And Your Honor, I'm going to ask if I can be handed State's Exhibit 152. Your Honor, it's previously been admitted. I would ask to be allowed to publish it.
You may.
Trying to make that a little easier to read. You were asked about Chad telling individuals on October 19th that his wife had become sick the night of October 18th. Do you recall defense counsel talking to you about that?
I do.
And then you were asked about the form and where he indicated October 18th of 2019 was when she first started having symptoms.
Yes.
And I know that's difficult to read, but under the medical information, can you read what is above where he wrote October 18th, 2019? And if you can't, I can have the exhibit handed to you.
No, I believe I can make it out. When did health of deceased first become impaired?
So it indicates when did the health first become impaired? Correct?
Correct.
And what was Chad's response again?
October 18th, 2019.
I have no further questions.
All right. I don't know if we got outside the scope of any direct or cross, so I'm going to deny recross. That'll conclude your testimony then. Is this witness going to be recalled by the state potentially?
The state would reserve the right to recall Detective Mattingly.
Okay, so Detective Mattingly, you remain under subpoena. You may be recalled to testify in this case because of the court's exclusionary order. Please refrain from viewing any of the evidence that is presented going forward between now and the time you take the stand. Don't discuss your testimony or others' testimony between now and then, and I'll ask you about that when you retake the stand.
You wish.
All right, thank you.